All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. Super excited to get to share with you not only nutrigenomics, but focusing on how nutrigenomics impacts autoimmune. So if you're watching this, first of all, thank you for joining us during this time. But since we're recording this, someone may be sharing this with you because they know that you've been touched by autoimmune. And my name is Angie Huntley, and I represent a biotech company called LifeVantage. And years ago, we have pioneered a science called nutrigenomics. And now we really lead the charge in it. We specialize in nutrigenomics. And we're going to explain a little bit about what that is and how it's different. I am the mother of 5 young men, and I have a grandson and another grandson on the way. So I do well at producing males. And at the time that I found this 8.5 years ago, I was executive director of a nonprofit and we're opening a franchise restaurant. And I had one of my young sons, I have identical twins that are my youngest sons, was inexplicably ill for about 10 months. And we didn't know what was wrong with him. I was looking for a miracle and something.
Just gentle with yourself, darling.
Something to quick
can you mute?
I'm going to ask that everybody mutes, but I can quick go in and I'm going to mute. As you come in, you are so welcome to join us, but I'm going to ask that you mute. I think I've got everybody muted. But I was looking for an answer because I had tried everything and nothing helped. And what I didn't know at the time was that an autoimmune disease was trying to manifest within my youngest son. And we found what we were looking for in nutrigenomics after so much had left us, pretty much still desperate for answers. And I'm going to be joined tonight in this call by Phillip Hoare, who is an Autoimmune Transformation Specialist. And I'm so excited for you to hear from him as well. I'll grab that to mute. I'm so excited for you all to hear from him as well, because he's been, and I didn't mention, I've been with LifeVantage for almost 9 years now. I'll back up. I'm jumping topics a little bit. I apologize for that. But I just wanted to mention that we saw such transformation of what we were looking for with nutrigenomics and with LifeVantage that I couldn't help but share it. And that's kind of the beginning in a nutshell of my story. And Phil's story was really interesting too, because he was a financial advisor. And I think loving it, but really because he had gone through health trauma with his family as well. And he lost a brother to cancer and had struggled with autoimmune disease within his own body and had to really do the research and try all the things to try to find a breakthrough, and did that. And then in his financial business, as he was helping people get health coverage, and they were struggling because of their pre-existing conditions, and he had knowledge to help them. And I think he found so much passion in helping them because applying what he had learned to his clients who were wanting health coverage allowed them to come in and get coverage. And he realized he needed to step more into his passion and got all the letters behind his name and the certifications, but teamed up with LifeVantage because, and I'm going to let him tell more of the story when he shares as well, but really on his hunt for help with autoimmune came to such a breakthrough in understanding leaky gut. And so we're going to combine those two things today and hopefully just give you a high level understanding at something that maybe could make a difference in your life. I know that when I found this, I felt like I had tried everything and I just wanted an answer to help my son. And so if that's you today, welcome. We're glad you're here. I want to tell you that when I first heard about this, I could not have been more weary and skeptical because I had tried everything and everyone had an answer that didn't work. And it took someone repeatedly reaching out to me, and it took a very special person that said just the right thing and didn't give up. But she loved my son enough to keep trying. And so there's so much more to that story, but I'd rather give you a little bit of the meat of what we have for you. And then if you have questions about my experience with my boys, actually 2 of them, both identical twins, have the autoimmune disease of type 1 diabetes. And so I can speak to that with questions, but I want to share a little bit of the why and how. And so why it was a little bit too good to be true. And I like for people to know that when we share what we have with you, it's going to sound too good to be true. It's one of the first things I thought was, this sounds too good to be true. And I don't want to shut that down. And I actually don't even want to shut down your skepticism, because you should be skeptical in the world today. There's a lot of junk out there. You need to ask questions. You need to make sure things are validated. And so that's why you're invited to view this, because we want you to look at some of those things that can hold up to that skepticism. But it's not that we have a product that's too good to be true. And I want you to remember that as we explain what we have. What you have is a body that is so miraculously made to heal itself. And when you give it the right tools, your body is capable of so much more than you realize. And so first, I just want to share with you 2 different analogies that might kind of bring it all together. We specialize in nutrigenomic activation, and that is using nutritional components that are formulated in such a way that you would think they were supplements, because you're thinking like food components supplemented into pills or capsules, tablets, little drinks. That seems like a supplement. But instead of
I'm gonna put it here.
I'm gonna pause and mute just a second. I'll keep my train of thought though. Instead of supplementing where there's lack, we're actually self-signaling a pathway in your body that was otherwise kind of sleeping or sitting dormant. Your DNA has many, many special pathways that are responsible for enormous amounts of healing, and they're not doing anything. They're dormant. 80% of your DNA is actually still and not doing anything. Similarly, I want you to think of your DNA, which that's sometimes shocking to people, because people blame their DNA for everything. You might think your lifespan is going to be blamed on your DNA, how long your parents lived and your aunts and uncles, and you may blame the specific illness that you might be struggling with on your DNA. But I want to share with you that your DNA is very influenceable. Only 2% of your DNA is coded, and we're influencing it whether you want to or not. If you had a cigarette today, you're influencing it. If you had processed food today, you're influencing it. If you exercise today, you're influencing it. And we found a way to really find what's most important to influence, what's going to have the most monumental effect on your health, and we'll explain why. And those are the pathways that we just find a switch and flip it on. Your DNA is like your cell phone. So my cell phone right now has a ton of functions that I'm not using. Your DNA has a ton of functions that actually aren't in activity right now. So my phone is doing a lot right now. It's telling me the time. That's you probably can't see it because of the glare, but this is a really great picture of my husband at the Detroit Lions NFL draft. This has the date on it. It tells me my cellular provider, and it tells me how much battery there is. And a lot of times when I flip it on, it might tell me my boy's blood sugar. It might tell me who's trying to talk to me right now. And it might ring a phone call. But there's so many things in this moment that it's not doing. I'm not on the phone. I'm not voice recording. I'm not on a Zoom on my phone. I'm not on social media. I'm not sending an email. I'm not reading a book. I'm not in the dictionary app. This has a lot of capacity that I'm not utilizing. And how do I know? How can I find that capacity? It's a matter of someone actually showing me that it's programmed to do something that I didn't know, and then showing me where the switch is. Similar to if I didn't know that this had a flashlight, someone would say to me, it's programmed to have a flashlight. It's got the light bulb, you've powered it up, it's fully programmed, you just need to know where the switch is. Well, where's the switch? And so as soon as I know the switch, it's turned on and it's activated. We signal that switch and it does what it was created to do. And so with nutrition, we have found that we can signal the switches in your DNA that are in the wrong place. They're either overexpressed or underexpressed or sleeping, and we turn them on and they regulate. They know what to do. This didn't shine too bright or not bright enough. This didn't flicker because it didn't know what to do. It wasn't out of balance. It was programmed to shine. And when you switch the flip or you flip the switch, it does exactly that. And so think of activation when we talk about activation and nutrigenomics. I want you to think of it like that flashlight. So it's different than supplementation. And why our products do what they do. And sometimes you'll hear us talk, like tomorrow night, we're going to do one of these Zooms and we're going to focus on ADHD. And when I first started with these products, I put my son on it, who had an autoimmune process that was trying very hard to manifest. He had lost all of fifth grade, totally non-functional, and he just came back to me. I also gave it to our son that we were bringing into our home at the time and into our family. And he was 15 years old and had been through severe neglect and trauma and cyclical, severe PTSD, no sleep patterns, having had no medical care, depression, anxiety, you name it. And he leveled up. And I took it because I thought I shouldn't give my kids something that I wouldn't take. So I took it. And then I realized that my gut healed. My gut that I just thought would always be an issue. I literally said nothing's wrong with me, because you just think this is what life feels like, right? This is what it feels like to age. Everyone has a bad gut. I just lived with it. But why did my gut heal? And I had one son whose emotional wellness completely leveled off. And I had another son whose autoimmune process stopped in its tracks. Because what we tend to target is what influences everything. And what I mean by that is that just like a table, if autoimmune, and we're going to focus on autoimmune, but we'll say for the moment, any disease process, whether it's cancer, whether it's autoimmune disease, whether it's anxiety and depression, or it's Alzheimer's, I want you to picture all of those disease processes represented by a tabletop. And in Western medicine, we tend to focus on that tabletop and we clean it off and we shine it and we might cut out a blemish and put in a better part. And we really, really focus on the tabletop. And we've been very indoctrinated to just focus on the tabletop, to really focus on that diagnosis. And with nutrigenomics and with cell signaling, with activation, we're able to focus on the legs. Because no matter what your ailment is, you have the same dysfunctions within the cells. And those same dysfunctions are elevated or over or underexpressed, and they support that disease process. So 60 years ago, a team of scientists wanted to cut off one of those legs. A team of scientists said, if we know that every disease process is rooted in this ugly thing called oxidative stress, and eating foods rich in antioxidants and taking antioxidant supplements can't even scratch the surface with how enormous oxidative stress is, if we could find something that lowers oxidative stress where we could get rid of that leg of the table, man, that tabletop would have a hard time being a tabletop anymore. And that's exactly what they did. That team of scientists started out in the pharmaceutical world. They got kicked out of that because they had a little more success with herbs and plants. And so that didn't jive with their pharmaceutical leadership at the time. And they moved their research to the University of Colorado in Denver, where they made an incredible discovery that kind of blends those two analogies, the table and the phone. They discovered that you have a pathway in your DNA that's sleeping, and it's called NRF2. And when that pathway is turned on, just like my flashlight, it creates such super antioxidants that influence the cell so much greater, to the trillionth degree, more than any food, drug, or supplement, that oxidative stress is lowered more than anything ever has. And that's kind of where it started. That was our flagship product. In fact, the results on the first human study that we did had 100% efficacy, which is unheard of. So question that. I want you to question that. And it lowered oxidative stress at least 40% in 30 days. Nothing had done that. 70% in 90 days. So question that. I want you to question that. That got the world's attention. An article was published in the Wall Street Journal, and that got the world's attention. So we have institutions all over the world who are saying, we want to study that. We'll spend our $1 million or millions of dollars studying that, because, we want to call baloney on that. ABC Primetime came in and did an investigative report. And usually an investigative report by ABC Primetime, this was 20 years ago, was to prove whoever they're investigating wrong. They have better ratings when it happens that way. And I just want to take 2 minutes to share with you a little bit of that study if you haven't seen it, just so you can see kind of the basis of the power of what we have. Because you know what? Oxidative stress is one of those legs on the table, and autoimmune disease is rooted in oxidative stress. And so that's why this is a big deal. I'm going to quickly grab, oh, that's not what I wanted to do. I hit my share in the wrong place. I had it all pulled up, and of course, oh, there we go. Sorry, I guess I needed my glasses. Here we go.
Related. Normally, oxidative stress measured by those T-bars increases with age. But in Dr. McCord's tests, taking just one pill of Protandim a day reversed that trend for everyone at every age, even for an 80-year-old.
They all are reduced to the level of oxidative stress that one would expect, frankly, in a newborn or a very young child.
Back to the oxidative stress levels of a child? It sounds too good to be true. Will Protandim work on me? But what about my progress? After nearly 2 weeks now, it's time to get my results. Dr. McCord calculates the numbers. The result? My level of oxidative stress has declined dramatically.
45%. That's excellent.
Just look at where I fall on the graph, before and after.
Which, if extrapolated back, is the level you would see in a newborn baby.
Have we turned back the clock? Well, maybe not on the outside, but deep inside within my cells. Yes, indeed. Would you suggest I keep taking this supplement?
I would.
And so, ancient Eastern healing and modern Western medicine may soon be working together. High oxidative stress is associated with more than aging. It's been linked to hundreds of illnesses.
It's at the very center of many diseases: liver disease, diabetes, emphysema, asthma. I've studied all of these: strokes, heart attacks, even mental disease. Yes, depression, Alzheimer's disease, depression. But we do know that oxidative stress is part of those disease processes. I don't want to wait until I'm 80 years old to find out that I should have taken it.
That gives you just a little idea of the power of what we have and why it's gotten so much attention. And we didn't stop there. So the NRF2 pathway was just one of those pathways within our body that, when activated, eliminates a dysfunction within the cell that's supportive of autoimmune disease. But there's other pathways because there's other legs of the table. It's similar, just to add another analogy, it's similar as if you can imagine a roof, and this will really tie into what Phil's going to share as well. If you imagine that you have several holes in your roof and it's storming, and that represents the causes of autoimmune disease. And it inside is the autoimmune disease, but it's not existing without the rain coming in. And so by plugging one hole, that's eliminating oxidative stress. It's enormous. Then we have an NRF1 pathway that we're able to activate in just the same way, that when turned on, so when cell signals, it increases the body's ability to increase mitochondria 70%. Another leg of the table, another hole in the roof is mitochondrial dysfunction. So we just work together to eliminate two legs in the table. Now we have wonderful mitochondrial function, and we have oxidative stress that's lowered now to the level of a small child. So we're not having that as supportive. I always tell my boys, like, you are the first generation of type 1 diabetics that don't have mitochondrial dysfunction or oxidative stress. And sirtuins are another hole in the roof or another leg in the table. We activate the NAD so that the sirtuins increase in production at least 100% within 24 hours. And sirtuins are responsible for the cleaning out of the cell, for autophagy. It's the reason why people are cold plunging and taking a sauna and fasting. But you can't sustain fasting, and you can't sustain cold plunging. You got to get out of the tub eventually. but your sirtuins can stay in production. So nutrigenomic activation, if this is new to you, we're turning on your body's manufacturing house in essence. And we have an activated collagen. And people so often will think, oh my word, like collagen's a cosmetic product. Well, collagen's the most prominent protein in every cell of your body. Your brain depends on collagen, your brain cells. I want you to think of everything in terms of cells instead of different parts of the body. Yes, skin cells, but yes, liver cells. Your eyes are 90% collagen, and we activate the body's production of collagen and increase its density by 100% in 8 weeks. So we see wonderful things for autoimmune as well. And then most recently, we released a GLP-1 activator. And so I want to talk a little bit more about that. And I did kind of skip over my slides, Phil, so we might go to your slides. But I want to share just a little bit. Yeah, let me switch you. I'm going to switch you to host, and I'll share just a little bit, and then I'm going to hand it over to Phil. Because I'd love for him to share a little bit more about what autoimmune disease is. I can give you a high level as a mother of 2 type 1 diabetics. Sometimes we'll say the expert in the disease is the one who lives with it every day. And so I can tell you on a pretty deep level, I can talk type 1, but Joan and Phil can take you even deeper. But an autoimmune disease is when the body's immune cells start to attack the healthy parts of the body. And in my boy's case, it's the beta cells are attacking their pancreas and essentially giving them pancreatic failure. And so where does this GLP-1 fit in? We just released a GLP-1 activator, and many people think of GLP-1 as a weight loss pharmaceutical. It's not the name of a pharmaceutical. It is the name of an essential hormone in your body. And although we refer to our nutrigenomic activator as a GLP-1 activator, we're actually activating and balancing and regulating several hormones within that gut-brain axis. But I want to hone in a little bit on that gut-brain axis because so much of our health is tied to the gut. And Phil's going to expand a little bit more about how leaky gut is really at the very root of autoimmune, which is super important. So while our other activators are contributing by literally getting the cells healthy and cleaning out the cells, including the gut, I will tell you, I started with NRF2 and NRF1 and my gut transformed because even your cells in your gut are rooted in those same dysfunctions. So I felt my leaky gut heal back then with those 2 activators. GLP-1 is a hormone that's produced in the gut. And in doing that, it creates this balance and regulation of not only we create that balance and regulation of the GLP-1 hormone, which is responsible for the pancreas's release of insulin, which is responsible for the way your brain thinks about its relationship with food, what you might call willpower. Other hormones are activated in the process. GLP-2, which Phil will talk about more. We actually downregulate, and this is the one thing I wanted to hone in on a little bit, and then I'll pass it over to Phil, is why is this so special and why are we seeing it work the way it does? Why are we seeing results for people that aren't necessarily related to weight, even though we are seeing a lot related to weight? So if you're thinking, well, I really still want it for weight, does that work? Absolutely. The beautiful thing is we're activating pathways that regulate and are intended to bring regulation and balance and healing to all your cells. So think about that. And everything you struggle with is made up of cells, even if it's obesity or just carrying extra weight. But there's this bad guy hormone. It's called DPP-4, and it's a culprit. It's underlying to so many disease processes, including autoimmune, but cancers and fatty liver, and the list goes on. COVID can't exist without DPP-4. So if you just think of that. And DPP-4 is overexpressed in just about every human. And it eats away at GLP-1, which means GLP-1 is underexpressed in just about every human. And so as part of our activating the different pathways that affect these hormones, we downregulate that bad guy. And we tell DPP-4 to get back where it's supposed to be. So the GLP-1 and the PYY and the the other one that all of a sudden I'm blanking on, are the ones that are responsible for how we feel satiety and hunger and how we relate to food are coming into balance. And we're seeing effects on the heart and the brain, on energy levels, on pain levels. And I want to hear more about how it affects autoimmune. So I'm going to hand it over to Phillip.
Thanks, Ange. That's cool. I came to LifeVantage not for NRF2. I came to LifeVantage for ProBio, because that's how I started, because autoimmune, leaky gut, all the rest of it. And then, that's where I found that. And then because the ProBio bypasses the stomach and opens up in the small intestine, I thought, man, that's gold. That's genius. And then I found NRF2. It's like, what is this funny stuff? Didn't understand it. Basically sat in the office, studied about 2 or 3 days, threw some slides together, and I said, I had to tell the humans. And within, let's say, a month, I enrolled 26 people, and it just went on from there. But the thing is, it's complementary. If someone says to me, this is the golden pill, or whatever you call it, you got to do other things as well. You can't go do this and abuse the body, yeah? So we just must understand it's a balance and everything else. But when it comes to, if my voice goes funny, it's because I'm just hoping that LifeVantage actually bring a voice activator, because I've been talking weeks with this whole GLP-1, haven't stopped. I'm known as Talky Talk, so if I do put on mute and I have to cough, that's what's happening right now. I want to shed a light looking at GLP-1, not for weight loss. I get it that they're talking about insulin resistance, all those things. I want to use a whole different take on it. And because autoimmune is huge, about, let's say 80% of people have got something called leaky gut. And I'm going to share some slides here. And I know Ron has seen them. I have a bit of a laugh, because to me, we need to make it a bit more fun. If it's not fun doing this, it's boring. Yeah. So I have a bit of fun with it here, and hopefully I can work out this technology thing. We're all having a bit of a moment today, Ange. Yeah. And this is my cute little slide I always start with. Sometimes the answer is looking right in the face. Yeah. Think about this. I'm always this person that believes we don't have to keep looking for things for too long. It should be right there staring it in the face. Now, this cat, if you just look left or right, there we go, it would have jumped out the box. So when you look at this here, think out the box. Be that person that thinks out the box. Now, I can't see anybody. I don't know if you can see those slides. Angie, give me a thumbs up. You got them? Yeah, cool. Awesome. Okay. So when it comes to leaky gut, now just remember, like when the ABC primetime thing happened, did its thing, and they all thought it's kind of weird, let's discredit it. Now the word leaky gut, the functional medicine people used to talk about that, and the pharmaceutical people used to say to them, that's weird, that's a myth, what are you talking about? It's intestinal permeability. So back then, now that was a myth, now it's a fact. So see how things have evolved. It's like, think of the back in the day, you had that flip phone as a mobile phone. Now you used to have a big brick. Now it's on your arm. You got an Apple phone. So everything's evolving. That's what nutrigenomics is. Leaky gut, I always say to people, if you basically pass wind, you can't eat certain foods, you have to live on a diet of lettuce and water because you're allergic to this, this, and this, you've got something going on with the gut. And that, to me, across the board, is a real easy way to explain it. If you pass gas, there's something going on. Yeah, that's what I like to say to people. Keep it super simple. I like to take things that are scientific, make it super simple, that a 5-year-old can get it. Now, Angie alluded to leaky gut and basically with a hole in the roof. I like to look at it like this. Imagine if you're at home and you get a hole in that thing, the drain pipe. I can tell you now, you're going to call the plumber straight away because your house is going to stink. It's pretty simple. So that is what we need to make sure. That gut needs to be nice and clean and what have you. And if it isn't, it looks like that. So you basically got a sieve and all these little foreign food particles pass through the small intestinal wall. And there we get this thing called leaky gut. So these junctions got to be nice and tight. This is like a microscopic view from the leaky gut in your mucosal cells. They've got to be stuck together nice and tight. So everything works and functions. Now that there's like a couple of millimeters thick. So you can imagine anything passes through there, it's a problem. This is why I love the NRF2 activator, because what it does reduces inflammation. Because when the gut gets inflamed, what happens? Those guys spread open. Then things can pass through, like the sieve, yeah, or the holes in the roof. And then it gets into the blood system, like all these funny things going on. And I always like to say this one thing, and I get a bit cheeky with this, yeah, because there's no such thing as an autoimmune disease because your body's not that stupid to attack itself. Just think about it. It's actually trying to protect it. So when you have these foreign food particles that land in the blood system, what happens in general, this is some studies I've looked at, these foreign food particles can mimic an organ. Let's say it mimics the thyroid, yeah? And guess what happens? Okay, we are going to attack the thyroid. The body is just doing its job like it's meant to do. It's just it's out of whack. So if we can heal and seal a leaky gut, I believe we've got a huge way to try to find a way to help you deal with autoimmune. And think about this. Health is not like do it for 1 month and great, we're done. It doesn't work like that. It's a balancing act. You know, you're young, it's all good. As you get older, it goes out of whack. It's like, oh, hold on. The wheels are falling off the bus. We need to realign them. And that's the thing we're looking at here. When you're out of a line, your health goes out the window. So you need to find a way to realign it. And then you can basically be back in balance. That to me is a balancing act. It's like driving a car on the road. If you're 1 degree holding a steering wheel, what happens? You're going to come on the side of the road. And then just when you come on the side of the road, you go, oh my gosh, you got a health issue. And you turn that steering wheel and you go back in the middle again. What if we could just dance with that? Nice and dance and go down the road. That's what we need to do with balance. When it comes to GLP-1, I'm going to go through this quite quickly. Reduces gastric emptying, meaning you're going to get better absorption rates. You're going to feel fuller. You're going to decrease appetite and you're going to balance your sugar. Essentially, yes, you're going to lose weight. I get it. But I'm not chasing the weight loss. I know it's a byproduct. We all want to lose a bit of pounds because if you jump around and it jiggles, well, that's what you want to lose, right? Simple. But let's go further. Why are we getting overweight? To me, I believe there's a whole chemical imbalance with our food. And let's be honest, do you wake up and want to crave a salad or do people generally crave a happy meal? Yeah. Work it out. They've changed our brains to eat stuff we're not supposed to have. So we need to stop counting calories, stop counting protein, and start counting chemicals. Because when your body's nice and clean, you're going to absorb nutrients better. And I'll tell you a quick story. I've got a client of mine. She got on the call with her. She goes, Phil, look at my bat wings. And she does this with her arms. And I have a bit of a laugh about it. Because to me, let's not fat shame. There's a toxic issue going on there. There could be a trauma thing involved as well. So this is not about overweight. There's something wrong with you. There's something out of whack. Like I've got an autoimmune condition. There's something out of balance. There's nothing wrong with me. I just need to rebalance it. And she said to me, Phil, I've been taking NRF1, NRF2, and the ProBio. And you won't believe my fat was hard. Now it's all soft. So when I move, it jumps around. I said, great. The toxins have come out because the body will always want to protect the organs and shove the toxic overload into the fat. And that's why it sits there. So you see why NRF2 activation, because it activates glutathione. That cleans up critical toxins. So stop counting calories. Let's start counting chemicals. The thing here with when our GLP-1, as we age, it goes down. So if you can see my hands, and then what happens as you get older, oxidative stress goes up. So what if we can smack oxidative stress down and wake up GLP-1, we can balance the alignment. And again, Angie alluded to mitochondrial dysfunction. The body's inflamed, your mitochondria decide to sort of shut down or go to sleep, because when we're stressed out, oxidative stress, our mitochondria want to sleep and hide away because they want to protect themselves. Because why? Because we've only got a certain amount of them. Because when you have 0 mitochondria, you're basically pushing up daisies and you're 6 feet under. So we have to find a way to protect them. That's why reducing inflammation is a big deal. I love this slide here. We talk about the gut-brain axis. In simple terms, if you eat garbage, you think garbage. Simple. It's not complicated. So if we're eating food we're not supposed to have, it's going to affect the brain. And I know there's a lady on the call here. She's had a traumatic brain injury. And I know another person said the same thing, that meaning they have a trauma against the brain. And within 1, 2, 3, or 4 weeks later, they pick up gut issues. Why? Because the gut and the brain are linked. It can go from either way, the top or the bottom. But what I love about GLP-1, what this dude does, it activates and rebalances the hypothalamus. Now, what is a hypothalamus? Now, remember the ABC video that you would have seen? The dude's on his computer there. It's got this big, thick TV there, or the monitor. On the floor, they've got the big thing called the CPU, a central processing unit. Nowadays, the CPU is an Apple Watch nowadays, right? That's what it is. So the CPU is your hypothalamus, which if you balance that, it balances the pituitary, balances the thyroid, ding, 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 balances your adrenals, and balances your sex hormones. So it's realigning your wheel alignment. So if you're driving down the road and your wheel alignment's off, you really got to pull that steering wheel hard to keep it in line, right? Because the wheel alignment's out. We go to the service station, we rip off the wheel, stick a new one on. Oh, car feels great. But we have to make sure the wheel alignment's ready and in line. So I say something quite cheeky when I'm on calls to people. If you can balance the hypothalamus, and yes, you're going to lose weight, your sex hormones are going to get better. I say to them, do you want to be happier, smaller, or hornier? And it's a bit of a cheeky way to say it, because your sex hormones, we all crave that, right? It's connection. You're laughing, and we have to be honest here. If you look at like with LifeVantage, most people will do anything for 5 things: pain, beauty, intimacy, chronic fatigue, and weight loss. Go look at the products we have, choose one, what you got going on, we can help you. So it's kind of cool. But let's go down this one little avenue, GLP-2. This is where even Joan knows how to explain this way better than me, but I like to take it super simple. She's got that crazy science brain. Any questions, she's the queen to go for the science. GLP-2 is activated from GLP-1. GLP-1 activates GLP-2, and it activates this thing called Akkermansia. And Akkermansia is basically a bacteria that comes along and finds the holes in leaky gut and plugs them up and seals them, produces some mucus, and it basically repairs and heals leaky gut. That to me, when I saw this, I was like, there we go. I think I found the secret weapon to help people with autoimmune. Now, it doesn't matter what autoimmune it is. I'm just saying a general comment here. I'm not sort of doctor or anything like that at all, but think about that. If we can do that, that's gold. Now, I'm going to say this one thing here. Akkermansia is now called the next generation probiotic. Just think about that. Now, if you go look at, there's an article was written in 2013 about 12 disrupting technologies that will change the world by 2025. And next generation genomics was the only one there to do with health and wellness. And next generation genomics is Nutrigenomics, which is NRF2 activation. So we look in Akkermansia, which is next generation probiotic. It's really powerful this year. It's really, really interesting. So, I mean, I've had 2 clients sent their, they've got autoimmune stuff going on and sent me their microbiome little chart that they have about 5 or 6 pages. And I just scroll down, Akkermansia, 0 on all of them. I was like, oh, there we go. And remember back in the day, you heard about that story where there was a dam that was leaking and this kid comes along and he puts his finger in it and he plugs a hole there. I don't know if you're on mute. I can't see you. If you can please mute, it'd be really cool. Because I know I am let's just mute Jennifer. There we go. So here, remember that dam wall is leaking. So this kid came along and stuck his finger in it. And I know Akkermansia only ranges between 1 to 3 or 5% of the microbiome. But what if that was the foundation of the house? What if we plug that hole and help the body balance that? We're winning. So that's really what I want to share when it comes to Akkermansia. And I mean, you can research this here. Can't make claims. You can read that quicker than what I can say it. What are we talking about GLP-1? Interesting, right? Chronic fatigue, chronic inflammation, type 2 diabetes, all these things, IBD. Interesting. So getting your wheel alignment all in check, what's really happening, the byproduct is weight loss. We hold on to weight to protect ourselves, whether it's trauma or toxins, many other aspects as well. So let's not fat shame. People are beautiful from the inside. We're just different on the outside. And if you balance it there, you can repair the gut, repair the growth, and nutrient absorption, and reduce intestinal permeability. And the thing is as well, what I forgot to mention, Akkermansia does another thing, helps absorption rates go up. And remember that saying we ought to talk about, we are what you eat. I say you're actually not, you are what you absorb. So now what's happening, whatever food you're having, and someone's saying, oh man, I'm eating less food, I'm going to be nutrient deficient. No, you're absorbing more nutrients, so therefore you can eat less. That's kind of cool. So I love talking about it. I'm known as Talky Talk. I will talk a day, and Barbara loves it when I chat. But the bottom line here is this is super simple. And I look at it like this. If you can reduce inflammation, that'll help wake up your mitochondria, which also helps your body absorb nutrients. Like NRF1 or mitochondria does 3 things. Increases absorption rates, helps your body heal, and increases energy. Interesting stuff. So find what works for you, pick up the smorgasbord of what we've got here to help you get back to the person invited here. And I say, don't put on your white coat and become a scientist. We've done it for you. Just take it to make it. I hand it back to Angie.
I love it. Wow, that was good. I want to sum up too, because I recognize that if you have an autoimmune disease diagnosis, there's a chance that that has completely organized your life. And you've been trained in a medical system that focuses on that. And so as you hear everything that Phil was saying, I know in your mind you're thinking, but what about Hashimoto's? And what about lupus? And what about type 1? And we never want to devalue the amount of trauma that you've been through a diagnosis. And I always tell people, like, type 1 has organized my whole family's life. It's not a small thing. But there's a shift when we're talking to you about the things that Phil was breaking down. He said it so good. So I'm gonna just put a period at the end of it to say, we focus on the things that affect everything. And so it doesn't matter the name of your diagnosis, even though it matters. We don't want to take away or dishonor what you've been through because of that diagnosis. I get it. I so get it. But we affect the things that help everything. And even in the things that are not part of our activators, but our support, we have only added that because it affects everything and because it needed revolutionizing. So our gut health is a revolutionary gut health. That's why Phil said, I actually didn't come to the company for the NRF2. I came for the ProBio because we do have a revolutionary probiotic. And my issue was gut my whole life, and I've taken every probiotic. I needed to specifically heal my gut, and nothing did. And activation did, but when I added our ProBio, it was the first probiotic in my life that I ever felt dramatically a shift in how I felt. And you know what? I felt it in my whole body because your gut is connected to everything. And in the way that we deliver micronutrients, in the way that we develop even topical skincare, we revolutionize what's already out there, or we don't touch it. And it's just kind of the company we are. And we have so many third-party studies out there that show that. But even with that, we don't want to diminish your questions, because you may have a question about a specific ailment. And I know it's hard to ask a question when we said everything we have has everything. My last thought on that before we'll open it up for questions is there's no wrong way to start, because everything we have affects everything. We want you to start with what you'll stick with. And these are longevity products, and they build and they accumulate in your system. And your breakthrough might be at 3 days, but it also might be at 3 months. And the products are actually going to be stronger at 6 months than they were at 6 weeks. So when I sit down with someone and I tell them there's not a wrong way to start, are you an all-in person or are you a baby step person? Are you apprehensive and you just want to take 1 or 2 steps, or are you all in? Because there's really not a wrong way. We can affect all the legs of the table or plug all the holes up, or we can do 1 or 2 and just start that way. Because that's a big question. Most people want a prescription pad that says, oh, you have this ailment, we're going to tell you to take this. Whereas our activators, we see a plethora of things. Like in my story about my sons and myself, there was no common denominator except for the common denominators that we address. But outwardly and diagnostically, there was no common denominator based on our Western medical world. But nutrigenomically, there was. Okay, anybody have questions?
Angie, can I just jump in something quickly?
Yes, please.
When we look at health challenge and autoimmune, a lot of people, I mean, I've had my own skin issues and what have you, which have gone away. I mean, I was told I'll never get rid of them. Activate that baby and they're doing their thing, right? But the thing is here, we've got 11 body systems and about 85,000 diseases. Think of 11 formulas. Think of like a funnel. The bottom root of the funnel is basically the health issue, but it's catching all these, oh, that's the system, sorry, and all these health issues fall in there. There's 11 formulas, so keep it so simple. This is what I work with people with autoimmune. Well, you've got that going on with the muscular system. Okay, there we go. Here's a formula and readjust it and off we go. It has to be simple that a 5-year-old can understand it. I'm not saying we're trying to dumb anything down, because what happens, I'd rather live my life and thrive instead of being got this sentence that I've got to be do this weird things and all those hard things to do, and that's my life now. So no, we need to do something simple and to thrive. So that's what I like to look at it from that point of view. It has to be simple. So yeah, definitely. It's yeah, I mean, I could talk a lot on it, but this is super exciting. When I saw GLP-1, I did not even look at anything. I waited till it launched because I wanted to see it, and then I go, okay, and then I've just been doing talky again. But when you understand leaky gut, man, I'm like a crazy person when talking to people. I don't talk about GLP-1. I say to them, I know you may have some imbalances. This may possibly help complement what you're doing with your health right now. Let's have a chat so maybe you can rebalance your thyroid. That's the conversations I have. It's a different approach that I use. So yeah, but I'll take some questions. I know Joan she's got a great sciencey brain, so she might explain things a bit more easier. So
For sure. And if you have a question, feel free to unmute.
do you want to switch the recording off? Because sometimes questions can go a
Thank
bit borderline.
Yep,